Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to Harry's Highlights. On this video, we're going to be talking about the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. Now, this is all about understanding the different laws that make up leadership in whole. So each time we want to focus on one of the individual laws. And this video is all going to be about studying or focusing on Law 8, which is the law of intuition. Now this is interesting because the law of intuition, it's a little bit more difficult to grasp for some people and very easy for others to grasp at the same time. See, the law of intuition is about understanding how leaders evaluate everything with a leadership bias. And that's all about understanding how it's like they just know some things without always being able to explain it. Much like how if you see someone who's been out at sea for a long time, they'll look up at the sky, nothing will look different to you at all. They'll look up and they'll see there's a storm coming, and it's a big storm. And you'll look up at the same sky and think, it's sunny, clouds, like what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? It's, excuse me, it's like they look through what you call like a bias lens. It's like a pair of sunglasses that just sees the world differently. And that's because they've developed intuition. So everybody has intuition and is intuitive. We all possess it. It's just people have intuition in what they focus on or what their strengths are. You know, some people might be a little bit more fashion conscious and they can just walk into a wardrobe and go, that and that will go perfectly together. You put it on and all of a sudden you'll get compliments left, right and centre. Other people will try and do the same thing, walk in and go, well, that colour gets with that colour. I think that those colours go together, yes, that makes sense. And then walk out and people go like, did you close your eyes when you got dressed or what happened? It's all to do with that intuition, and it's all to do with like what people's strengths are. You know, you do something for long enough, it becomes a strength, and then things become more automatic. It doesn't always require an explanation for you to understand it. You get it based on previous experiences, you get it based on previous results, you get it based on previous situations you've been in. So when you look through that leadership lens, when it comes to the law of intuition, you know, who you are dictates what you see. You know, if you're looking through a leadership lens and you naturally will look for positives, you'll see all the positives that are available to you and all these opportunities. If you're more negative, you'll see all the roadblocks and they'll stand out to you more. So even though like if you think of it like a pair of sunglasses, anybody can put them on, but people have different head shapes. We all have the same eyes, we can all see similar ways, different head shapes, so it suits people differently. So even though you might have two leaders and they both look through a leadership lens, the ones that are more positively inclined will definitely see a lot of different things to the person that's more negatively inclined, who see a lot of other different things as well. So when you understand, you know, there's natural ability and learned skills, and they come together to create an informed intuition. Some people just naturally can see things differently to others, and they'll also have learnt other things. The positive leader, positively inclined leader, will see all the opportunities, and through repetition, through experience and learned skills, they'll learn to recognize the obstacles and then create an informed decision based on all of that one. And using the intuition, they won't always have to think about, now I need to look for the negatives. They'll just go, there's all the positives and I'm seeing the negatives as well. Not necessarily because they consciously decided to see it. The intuitions come up, they go like, here's all the positives. Oh, and these things could go wrong as well. So it all comes together, it all works together to work together in harmony and understanding it's like your intuition is something that develops over time. Some people have it naturally higher than others just because it feels like they're in the element. They just recognize things without even explaining it, without even thinking about it. It's instinctive. They do this because it feels right. It feels like this is what I should do here. It's like how some people can walk into a room, you can feel the tension. It's part of intuition. It's part of like, you just recognize that, oh, something here feels. You can't always see it. Everyone might be smiling. Everyone might be sitting together, but you can feel something is off. That's intuition. Same thing with the law of intuition when it applies to leadership. Some leaders, all leaders to different degrees, will have a level of developed intuition. Some might look at the problem and see like, okay, in 2 years we might have this problem. Others might see this, look at it and go like, you know, I see nothing for the next 2 months. This seems great. And all depends on where you are, where you're sitting at. So thinking of that as well, there's leaders, you know, read situations. They look at it, you know, in comparison to some managers who might be following a process and a system, they'll look at it over weeks and months. A lot of employees look at it over probably days to weeks. They'll look at it based on, the next paycheck. Okay, here's what I need to get done this week. By the time I get paid here, things like that. Manage a little bit more. They go like, okay, here's what the next few weeks look like. Probably the next couple of months is where we need to be at. Follow that system or process. Where leaders will see it very broadly and go that once all that's done, and once this next part's done, this is where we need to be moving to. And then after that, we need to be moving to there. So broadly seeing it across years, you can sort of guide the direction a lot better. So leaders also maximize assets and resources. They recognize that by looking at things broadly, they go, we need to start tapping into this now to maximize that. We need to start utilizing that now to get the best results later on down the track. It won't be apparent right now, but in 4 months' time, making this decision here and choosing to use this now instead of that is going to make a huge difference. And it's understanding that one. But people sort of break that down into, yeah, sure, there's natural leaders, but there's also nurtured leaders. Then there's also the people that never have leadership. And that's not because they can't. It's because they won't. It's because they're unwilling. They don't want to. There's some people that are just without really being taught much, they just develop it themselves. They're natural leaders. They're naturally more inclined that way. Nurtured leaders were maybe not so natural about it, but wanted to become it. So they nurtured it and they worked at it. Just like anything, it's like a muscle. Work it long enough and it'll grow. It'll get bigger, stronger, faster. Same thing with anything like this, with leadership and intuition. And then there's the never. The people that either fail to recognize it or refuse to recognize it. It might be, I'm not a leader, or I can't be a leader, or it might even be based on intuition. I don't have intuition, I can't grow intuition, and that's why they'll never be it, because they're unwilling. Not because they can't. Everybody has the potential to develop it. The issue is when somebody refuses to. If you don't participate in it, you can't grow from it. You can't achieve anything from it. It's like, you've got to be in it to win it. Same sort of style. Like, for you to have intuition or develop intuition, you have to be willing to participate in developing it. The next thing is there about understanding that when it comes to natural and nurtured leaders, both of them have to some degree change their thinking, because their thinking will only get them so far. It'll get to a point where their thinking will need to develop, change, adapt, improve. And say with nurtured leaders, for them to develop stronger leadership skills they weren't naturally born with, their changing has to think. They might thinking normally like as a follower. And it's like, I'll just turn to somebody else to ask all the questions, when they need to start looking internally instead of externally. Going, how do I solve this problem? If there was nobody here, what should I do? And then come up with okay, I need to create a criteria. And then what's my criteria? Now, part of that criteria flows into the law of intuition, because without even recognizing it, you'll have that criteria in the back of your head, and a situation comes up, and you'll just go, I just feel like this is right. And you might be subconsciously referencing that criteria you've already created without consciously going through it and go, well, this, and this, and this. So all leaders, natural and nurtured, when they look at a situation, will measure it, evaluate it, and then try to solve it. That's sort of the base framework for leadership. They'll always look at a situation, and to some degree, they'll have to measure it, sort of take it in and go, okay, here's where everything's looking, here's what's at, that's there, that's here, here's what's going to probably happen based on all this one. They evaluate it, go, okay, if we do this, this will probably happen. We do that, that'll probably happen. If we don't do that, that might happen, but this might happen. They solve it. Okay, so we don't do that, we could do that, let's do this. Oh, that probably won't work. They work at it. So the improvement is impossible without change, because there's going to be times where they'll make a mistake based on their thinking, going like, this was the best option. Oh, and they made a mistake. And if they don't change their thinking, they'll continue to make that mistake. They won't improve. They'll continue to keep hitting that roadblock, just in different areas at different times. So understanding that, in essence, leadership is more art than science, because there's times where things are going to be a little bit more subjectional. Things are just going to be harder to explain. It's not going to be like as absolute as this equals that. It might this equals that in that situation, but this equals this in this situation. So that's where it's that, how an artist can look at a picture and just go, it needs this colour, I just need to add this bit of shading there. And it's like, how did you come up with that? Because your other painting you didn't do that, but this looks amazing. And it's the same thing here with leadership. People trying to follow a very specific system will look at it and go like, okay, last time this situation happened, I did this, I need to do this again. And it's like, it's not always that cookie cutter method. Not everything can fit it into a square. You've got to be adaptive. So to summarize quickly, the law of intuition is all about understanding how people become more instinctual, how they read a situation without always knowing all the facts, without always understanding it in its entirety, or the ability to explain it. All people have intuition. It's normally just in what they're strong in when they're born. But it can always be developed. You know, you've got natural leaders, you've got nurtured leaders, and of course the never leaders, the ones that are unwilling to participate, so they can never develop it. So all in all, it's understanding that you have to change your thinking to be able to change your results. Improvement's impossible without that change. And when you look at it in its entirety, the leadership is more of an art than it is a science. That things will call for a different solution based on a similar situation. Well, that's all from me, guys. We'll be making a lot more of these videos for this training series to help you with the personal and development goals. But that's all from me. So until next time, leave a comment below on what you like the most. I look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode of Harry's Highlights.